And that set up the 2001 team that all three of you are on, where you guys win the Big 12, which felt like Fantasy Island. You're hosting a regional at the Buck. And then, you win your regional, although that got a little dicey. Then you win your super regional, really tightly contested. And then you're in Omaha. So, Will, I set up that 3-year framework there. Go wherever you want with that. But when you think about the 2001 season, any part of that, what's the first thing that jumps out to you?
Well, I think you did a nice job kind of setting up the build up for that team, because it wasn't just a flash in the pan of, hey, everything came together in 01. It truly was, even though it seemed like it all came together quickly, which it certainly did. Let me rewind a little bit. Kind of a first marker there for those guys and what they were going to do at Nebraska. They won a tournament in Hawaii. Like they'd been with the team for like a month, and there was a huge tournament out in Hawaii, which I think is how they ended up getting Shane Komine. Just ironically enough, DVH magic on that one. But it was. They won a tournament in the spring of '98 out of nowhere against some good teams in Hawaii, and that was kind of an aha moment for me in high school. There, going, man, these guys just win. They just everywhere they go, they win. It's just, and they did that in '98. We get on campus in the fall of '98. I think we look around and see that we've got some talent. I remember having a conversation with Komine that first fall, and he's about my height, weighs about 150 pounds, and we're all thinking, this dude's got to be a left-handed pitcher. He said he was a pitcher. We're like, he's got to be a lefty, crafty dude throwing 84. We'll see what this guy's all about. And he tells us he can throw low 90s, and we're like, okay, yeah, whatever, we'll see. But that's a whole nother story we'll probably get to later. But, in '99, we win the Big 12 tournament as the 5 seed. We swept Texas that year. It was cold up in Lincoln, and we said, bring it on. Let's figure out a way to beat the big boys. We swept Texas. That was a big weekend for us that kind of propelled us and said, hey, we got a shot to do some things. But we made a run in that tournament, and we didn't luck into it. We didn't run into it a great draw or anything like that. I mean, we beat the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, ended up beating Baylor in '99. And I would argue that the 2000 team maybe was our best team ever at Nebraska, aside from maybe '05, the team that won 57 games. We led the nation in ERA in 2000, and a team that hit 330. We were insanely talented. And, like you said, we went to the brink there against Stanford. And I think up until that point, we didn't know how good we were. We won the regional. And again, we had no clue what the pairing was. Like, it was just like, okay, well, who do we play next? I remember having that conversation in the tent outside the right field fence after we do the press against Minnesota. It's like, hey, who do we play next? Like, who's next on the docket? And it's, oh yeah, you guys are going to Stanford. They're a top whatever national seed. And we're like, oh, cool. Like, awesome. Like, we'll go out there and play baseball. And I do remember a moment after we won that first game. RD was, if I recall, played a big part in that game out of the pen, pitched amazing for us. And we won that game. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, we're on the doorstep of Omaha here. And for the first time, maybe all year, we started thinking about it. And that team at Stanford was incredibly talented. They took it to us the next couple of games. And I say take it to us. They were close. They were close games. Shane had broken his jaw in the regional. He pitched with a broken jaw in game 2. Probably in hindsight, and I've had this conversation with Rob, probably in hindsight, they would have held him out an extra day and thrown him on Sunday. We went for the jugular, so to speak, on Saturday. They got him, and then they got us on Sunday. So, but I'll say this, and these guys can kind of speak to it. Justin being a newcomer on the 01 team and RD being there for a couple of years, but that whole year in 01, everything we talked about, every conversation in the clubhouse, in the locker room, in the coaching staff, they put a picture up on the door as we went out to the field of the dog pile with Stanford, and said, had a saying on it. And we saw that every single day, and we were driven. I mean, there was no question in our minds that we were going to get to Omaha that year in 01. And it's funny now looking back at some of those highlight tapes, there's some behind the scenes stuff where guys are just saying Omaha this, Omaha that. And this is 2 or 3 weeks into the season. And mind you, kind of a thing at the beginning of that season. We got beat 16-2 against Rice in an early season tournament. We had a lot of expectations that year. They absolutely embarrassed us in their home park in a tournament. And then we ended up beating them 2 out of 3. But that was a buildup. I mean, that was again, it seemed fast to a lot of folks, but there was a lot of hard work behind the scenes. And that 2001 team, that was our mission. Our mission was Omaha. We're hosting a regional this time. Rob got on. He got a sod cutter and cut a warning track in the outfield. That was one of the reasons we couldn't host, is we just weren't prepared for the buck, and we didn't have bathrooms in the dugout, so they plopped porta potties on the side of the dugout, and Childress was out there cutting sod, and they made a warning track, and DeJuan Gross and some of the football players were in the field crew for that, and so they dogpiled with us. It was a total team effort. We were a national seed. We were good, and we wanted to win really, really bad. And when you have that combination, magic happens.
Oh, that's great. Justin, let's focus. Like, there are two things that jump out from what Will just said there is, hey, you win the Big 12. Like, this is an era where winning a conference championship is a huge deal, right? Like, and that is not an easy league to win. Obviously, Texas is rolling at this time, or they're about to be rolling. Like, they're very talented. There's a lot of really good programs in the league. So, like, this is going to happen in a very short window to me. You're going to win the Big 12, and then next thing you know, you're hosting a regional. Like, to Will's point, that's not new anymore, but the hosting part's new. Like, in that window, Justin, what stands out to you?
Well, Will hit on a lot of these points, but I would say, one of the advantages that we had was that we were a northern team. And anytime that, you're playing in the Big 12 at that time, the majority of the conference is southern based. And so anytime those guys would come to town, and look, I'm from East Texas. I hate the cold. These guys can attest to it. I'm the softest person in America when it comes to being cold. But we would roll out to our game and it's 40 degrees and nobody has sleeves on. We've all got our pants up. Like, there was a real attitude to the way that we played. And the way that we presented ourselves. We didn't have bathrooms in the dugout, like Will said. We had the worst facility in the league, but we took pride in all those things. And the fact that this is what we don't have is a little junkyard dog, mentality that, like, we're really good. We don't have all this stuff. You come into our ballpark and we will send you back on your nice private plane and you can think about it on the way back home. And that was the attitude that we played with. Dave completely perpetuated that. Rob facilitated that, and Mike, enforced it on an offensive standpoint. And that's the way that we played. And then, we get to a regional, and our regional was not easy. I think we faced Nick Ungs, who led the country in wins that year. And then we faced a Rutgers-led team that was really, really good. Bobby Brownlee's on that team. We have to grit our way through through a couple wins there to go win the regional, come back from behind. And then, Will's talking about the things that we had to do in order to host the super regional against Rice, against a team that has just kicked us all over the ballpark early in the year. And Kenny Ball's out there. It was just John Skaggs and Kenny Ball are both first round picks that we beat in that super regional. And they're airing it out. Our scouting report, Bruins, you saw these scouting reports, right? Our scouting report for Kenny Ball, it already knows where I'm going with this. It says 88-92 fastball changeup. Kenny Ball comes out and he is letting the ball go. Like, you see my fingers right here. He's letting the ball go like that. And it's right in front of the plate at 92-96. And he's dropping 3 pitches for a strike. And he's doing it 170 times on that day. And we outlasted him to get ourselves to Omaha. And, the things that Will said about us talking about Omaha, I think a lot of teams talk about Omaha like it's Disneyland. It was not Disneyland. It was us going to our friend's house down the street. Like, we were going, all it was a matter of getting in the car and driving down the street. And I think a lot of teams, I've coached long enough that a lot of people think of it like is this far off place that we're never going to go. And that team, we definitely did not have that. We definitely thought we were going to give me the keys. We'll jump in a car and we'll just drive right down there.
So good. To your point, Justin, like Rice was just humming at the time. Like, they had just gotten done having Lance Berkman have a 41 home run, 137 RBI season. They were becoming regulars in Omaha. This is 2 years before they're about to win a national title. And they're going to beat Stanford to do this. So, like, yeah, and like you mentioned, first round arms. I mean, this is going in the front door. Hey, RD, so here's what I want you to like. I'd love to hear about like hosting the super regional, clinching Omaha at the Buck, and then what it felt like. And Will and Justin, I want you guys to comment on this too. Like, okay, you're now the Huskers are going to Omaha. What that experience was like?
Yeah, no, just from I can remember this after we win the regional and we were informed that we were hosting the super regional in 2001. Haymarket could have been a go. Haymarket was like a possibility because they had the facilities, but I vividly remember the practice maybe on Monday where Coach Van was like, I said no. And we're like, what? How do we not go to the cathedral and play? And he's like, this is our yard. We know the bounces. We know the hops. This has got our blood, sweat, and tears in it. And we're like, good call. Good call. And so we weren't already hyped up enough to be hosting a team who slapped the taste out of our mouth in February against the 15th and 30th overall pick. It was like, yes, they have no idea what they're getting into here. And so that was incredible. Like Will stated too, this started, 24 months prior. We did sneak a win in the 99 regional. The super regional was a big learning experience as well in 2000. And I can remember Will, we were playing Creighton at Rosenblatt, maybe late March. And he's like, hey, what's going to happen if that's LSU or said team in the other dugout? And we kind of smirked, but it wasn't like Justin said, Neverland. It was like, it's got a real shot to make it happen. Comini was Comini on game one. They threw Skaggs because Ball was on short rest. The offense, like always, did it. I think it was up to 97 and the most hellacious breaking ball that I had ever seen up to that point. But it was awesome. The dog pile, I'll never forget the victory lap after the dog pile, shaking all the hands. The people at Buck Belcher, they brought in more stands. I think the capacity was 1,500. That day there were 5,800, and it felt like 58,000. And you fast forward a week later, just kind of segueing into the tournament. We played the second game against Fullerton on that day one, and Tulane and Stanford were squaring off, and we had to kind of like walk, weave our way through the stadium to get down to the indoor hitting things, and the crowd erupted. And I thought about it earlier today, got goosebumps, got them right now. I was just like, this is happening. This is happening. And it wasn't by luck or it wasn't a flash in the pan. It was just a bunch of guys who hated to lose and got that reward. So that was fun to be a part of.
Oh, so good. Hey, Will, so let's talk about the Omaha part for a second, because you shared a great picture that we put on Twitter of you guys on the line for the national anthem. I mean, Rosenblatt by itself is that's like a church, right? It's like a cathedral. And, Fullerton is this historic power. And I watched, anyone that's listening, you can go on YouTube. I found a minute clip of you guys clinching Omaha at the Buck, and that was amazing. What you just described, RD, like high-fiving the fans who are like literally hanging over the fence onto the field. And when I say fence, I mean like literally a chain link fence. And and then just you guys playing Fullerton, it's amazing. Like Kirk Sarlos is on that team, and Brett Kay, that one of the best high school coaches in the country at J. Sarah Catholic, he's the catcher. Paul Gillier is the home plate umpire for that game. It's Mike Patrick and Harold Reynolds on the call. I mean, yeah, like you said, when I think John Cole was the leadoff hitter, if I'm not mistaken, and he comes up to home plate, and again, I'm just watching the replay, the ESPN replay, and the place just explodes again. So Will, yeah, any recollections from like that game one in Omaha against Fullerton?
Yeah, and RD said it. I mean, we were the rock stars. I mean, just the way that they treated us. There were tight quarters there at Rosenblatt, and I remember walking through the the concourse underneath, and shoulder to shoulder, you're walking with the fans, and our team walks through, and yeah, it was an amazing atmosphere. It felt, I think I saw Coach Serrano may have put it on social media. It was a football crowd at a baseball game, and that was true to a certain degree. I mean, we kind of burst on the scene for a lot of folks that maybe hadn't jumped on the bandwagon quite yet, and we went from 5,000 to 25,000 of our closest friends pretty quick. But it was an amazing. We're the home team, and I recall, and that picture that you refer to, where we had just done the anthem. You've got the iconic Rosenblatt scoreboard in the background, which that when I think of it as a kid thinking about Rosenblatt, it was the rainbow colored seats, and it was the crown scoreboard, and that Fullerton team was loaded. I just recall I'm playing shortstop. We run on the field, and the deafening sound of the crowd. I just recall and making a mental note of like, hey, take this in. Like I want literally hear every single roar of the crowd. The hairs on the back of my neck, just like they are right now. They were standing up on that day, just like all the rest of the guys that were on that team. And it was like, hey, this is maybe the closest to the big leagues you ever get. And that's the way it was. And obviously the game didn't go the way we wanted it to. We didn't make the plays. We didn't make the pitches. And Fullerton was awfully talented. They had a stud closer. I think I made the last out of that game. I'm certain that I did. And if I had a wood bat in my hand, it would have splintered into 127 pieces. Chad Cordero got ran it in there on me. So, but it was an unbelievable experience. And I'll just say this. I mean, it was a blur. I mean, we were there and gone in 2 games, and we did the same thing the next year, but it didn't go as fast the next year because I think we had learned from it and we wanted to take everything in. And it was an unbelievable baseball experience. And that's honestly, that's what drives me as a coach now, is to get back to a situation like that, obviously at a different ballpark, but to have, my starting shortstop have that feeling, those are things you'll never forget as a baseball player.